Tick long-term purchases. That's an unusual one to be coming, but um, then the rest of the big news this afternoon, late in the afternoon, is going to be the Aussie dollar. And if you were trading early, it looks like there was a lot of news on the pound sterling. So that's the news. If you are in any kind of an indices trade right now, I'd be tightening down the stops and watch it very closely because I don't know how much movement this is going to put. That it's always a good idea to know where you are relative to the news and where you are relative to the time of day when you're trading. Top of the hour and bottom of the hour, sometimes things happen. And if you're focused on a trade, you kind of lose track. Or should I say, I do. So I'm assuming other people do too. The VIX has backed off a little bit, and the indices, it looks like overnight they were in a real tight range, and then the people who trade the early morning session had a nice run up. It wasn't a big movement, but at least it was consistent. So, looking at crude oil, we're in a very definite contango still with crude oil, which is a good thing. Anytime crude oil, these front months start getting in a higher and higher price, we're in contango. In other words, if the hill is going up price-wise, and when it starts the other way, it's in backwardation, and the expectation is that the price will fall over time. Crude oil rolls every single month, so it's a little easier to track what the market sentiment is on that. Brent has not moved a heck of a lot overnight, and if watching crude oil is new to you, Brent is traded, it's what's called the North Sea crude oil, and it is traded heavily in Europe. Some here in the U.S., but the main market for that is in Europe, where what we trade is called, you'll see it as WTI crude oil, and that's West Texas crude oil. So looking at crude yesterday afternoon, our little friend TF. I really like to trade TF, but it was sure being a bratty, awful thing to trade yesterday morning. But in the afternoon, it kind of straightened itself up and had a nice trend and a couple of 3 very nice, easy trades to take. That sometimes happens. One of the things that you really have to develop an eye and a second sense for is to feel when these markets get in a chop, don't trade them. The bus driver is going to do nothing but roll back and forth over you and flatten you, and it's just not worth it. So get up, walk away, come back, live to fight another day, and take the really good trades, because the really good ones are real easy. Don't let that bus driver beat you up and rob you and all that stuff. Just stay away from him. And believe me, he's a lot more powerful than you are. So, looking at crude oil this morning, the first thing I notice is that we are below settlement and we're painting red E's. So if we go back and look over the overnight, there was not a lot of activity. These little teeny skinny range boxes in here will tell you that it took a long time. There's the siren for the news, so we'll see what happens. It took a long time for these bars to develop. So we'll see this morning all the early birds as usual. If you're up at the crack of dawn, this can be a really nice time to trade crude oil, but you have to have your system up, be ready to go for 4:30 in the morning. This morning I will mention this too before we get lots and lots of questions on it. This morning on this 210 tick, I had no apexes. If that happens to you, go to indicators, get your apex pattern, elite pattern, and check this assume initial position. Mine was up. You just double click it and it changes it to down. Tell it okay, and lo and behold, all the apexes showed up. That's just an anomaly in this programming, I guess. It happens every once in a while. So it's not that they didn't disappear, it's just a little setting in there. Crude oil is below settlement. We've got a red MVP up here. We're painting red apexes. When we look at this sharpshooter, it's just now cleared. I'm not sure that this would be a good entry. We don't have a trend catcher confirmed entry on that, and that's probably for the reason that we're right down here. This is the low of the day. This is why I keep the this orange dotted line down here, and the green dotted line is to tell us where it's been today, because to go through those is going to take some volume. Otherwise, don't be taking a short entry right against this, because you really have no assurance that it will continue through it. You have to let the bus driver tell you where he plans to go and then try to take advantage of his bus ride. So right now this is just in a chop, and I would avoid it. If you are an experienced trader and you've been studying this, this can give you some very nice trades. For example, and when it's in chop, right off of this sell zone down to the deviation, or even it touched down here at the low, you probably could have squeezed some more ticks out of it. And if you're accustomed to trading this right off of this buy zone, and it went right to the green ice, I'd be out here if you got in off of this. But those are 20 and 30 tick trades. It doesn't take a lot for those to start to add up. Anyway, I think that's about all I see this morning. Bonds might give us a little up. Gold has been bottoming around here, and the dollar for the last all day yesterday is in a pretty tight range. So I do not like trading crude oil when I see these 30 minutes just like this. I don't like that at all. So this has been my view from my world in Apex land, brought to you by Apex Investing. I'll see you about noon, and we'll go over what the trades were in the morning. Thanks.